because I get a lot of questions about pre-approval, pre-qualification. I want to walk you through a manual pre-approval or manual calculation. Most of the time, pretty much 99% of the time, you'll be doing pre-qualifications, pre-approvals on the computer. So you'll be either using a loan origination system or even maybe a spreadsheet or a mortgage calculator. But let's talk about what that is and what the actual math is. And I'm going to do a couple because I want to show you what I sort of classify as forward and reverse, right? I just did someone with one of my trainees today. So the one we worked on today was, we had a customer that was interested in buying a home for $800,000. They came and said, hey, I want to get pre-approved for that dollar amount, that home price. And they plan on putting 10% down. Okay, so that is $80,000, right? So if we take 80,000 from this 800,000, that gives us $720,000 equals our loan amount. Okay, that's the loan. So now we have to figure out, what does a scenario like this look like? If they are getting a loan for $720,000, we're going to, if we don't yet have licensing, we don't have access to interest rates from our loan officer, then I'll put a link in this video where you can go to just a generic, daily mortgage rates website and see what's the average interest rate. So today, average interest rate today is 6.75. Okay, so we're going to use that as the number, and we'll just go to our trusty mortgage calculator. I have this big ginormous one, but you can also use one that is available online. So on these mortgage calculators, you're going to put in the loan amount, 720, the interest rate, 6.75, the term, we're going to assume it's a 30-year mortgage, and this is going to be your monthly mortgage, amount, the principal and interest, or PNI. Okay, so we have the mortgage part, 4670, roughly about that. But and then we have our taxes, we have our insurance, and then if we are putting 10% down, this is less than 20% down, we're going to have something called PMI, or also MI, maybe for short. So you'll want to find out from your area, from your state, if you have a different tax percentage. In this scenario, we're going to use 1 1/4. So if this is the home price, 1.25, $10,000 for the year of property taxes, 12 months of that would be $833. Insurance, that kind of varies. You can use a formula for that. I've just been seeing what's out there, so I'm going to guesstimate that it's going to be about $200. For this particular scenario, we looked up what the private mortgage insurance would be, and it was actually cheaper to do FHA. So we may switch it to an FHA and not a conventional loan. Mortgage insurance was about $450. Okay, so now these all together, so this mortgage is principal and interest, PITI, I is the principal and interest, taxes, and then insurance. That's the PITI. And then you have this extra MI, which is also another form of insurance. So if I add all of these together, so 46, I'm rounding that up, plus 833, plus 200, plus 450. So our total here is 6153. This is how much the PITI equals. Let's say we have access to the credit report, okay? And they've told us they have a car at $800 a month. They have a credit card or several credit cards, but it totals all together, I don't know, $500 a month. They have some student loans, $400 a month, and something else, and that costs them $150. Okay, so then if we add all of their credit debt up, we've got 800 plus the 500 plus the 400 plus the 150. So they pay $1,850 in credit debt. So we have the PITI, or the housing expenses, and then we have the credit expenses. We have the two different expenses. So if we add those together, we have $1,850, that's already on our calculator, plus the $6,153, $8,003. So these combined is $8,003. Okay, so this is how much, in theory, right? This is how much it would cost if they're getting an $800,000 house. This is how much it's going to, this is how much weight they are carrying in terms of debt. So in order to figure out if they qualify, or what they would need to qualify for that in terms of income, we're going kind of backwards. We're taking this amount, and depending on what their credit score is, you know, over 700, then a lot of times you can use a 50% debt to income ratio, but let's be conservative and say we need their debt to income ratio to be 45% or less. So if we're at 8,003, we're going to divide that by that 0.45 debt to income ratio. This is how much monthly income we would need. I don't know if you can see that. $17,000, almost $18,000 in income a month to qualify for this home price, putting 10% down. So if we need 18,000, right, for the year, that would be 216 annually. So as you're talking to a customer and you have these figures, if they say, you know, hey, I kind of want to know what it would look like if I wanted to buy something for 800,000, and this is a real conversation that happened. They said, Tressa, I want to buy something for 800,000. I have 10% to put down. Do you think I'll qualify? So I'm doing the numbers first. I'm saying, okay, you want to put 10% down. You want to buy this house. This is how much it's going to cost you a month, $6,153 approximately. What does your credit look like? Oh, good. We have pretty good credit. I think our score is about, 720. Okay, great. What is your credit made up of? Well, we have a car payment. We have a few credit cards. We have some student loans, and then we also have some miscellaneous things on there, personal loans and what have you. So based on what you've told me, your credit debt plus your proposed mortgage, you would need to make $216,000 a year. I don't know. We make probably close to 2. I don't know if we make more than 2. Well, that's pretty close. So we may be able to make something like that work. Now let's do that kind of the opposite way of what we just did. Let's say someone says, okay, I make $200,000 a year. 200,000 divided by 12, that's 16,667 approximately, okay, a month. If we're using that same principle of the 45% debt to income ratio, then 45% of this amount is $7,500. So if we're talking to someone, they say, well, I make about $200,000 a year. How much house can I buy? Well, we can now spend $7,500 on monthly debt. That includes a new mortgage payment, includes what debt you have now, if you have credit cards, student loans, car payments, car leases. What's already included in that $7,500? Your current credit debt. Do you know maybe what your score is? Yeah, my score is around 700, I think. Okay, great. 700 score. What kind of things do you have? My car, I have, I pay about $600 a month for that. I've got some credit cards. Okay, great. I don't know, probably like $200 a month. Okay, $200 a month in credit cards. Any student loans? No? Okay, no student loans. Good. I sometimes write this down when I'm talking to people, so I know I asked. You're all good with the IRS? Do you have any IRS payment plans? No, I'm all good. What about personal loans? Oh yeah, I have a personal loan. And on that one, I pay $330. Okay, $330 a month. Got it. All right. Customer, we've got $600 is your car payment plus your credit cards plus your personal loan. So about $1,130. So this is what you pay every month in credit debt. We have $7,500 we can spend. So $7,500 minus $1,130. All right, we have $6,370 that we can actually spend on a mortgage. So if we were looking at, this kind of scenario, like $800,000, we know they would qualify because this amount is higher than this. So it still fits in this $7,500 bucket. Now you might want to ask them, how much do you have for your down payment? I could probably put down maybe $150,000. Oh, okay. So if you're putting down $150,000, see, look at that. If they were buying $800,000, 20% is like $160,000. So they're pretty close. So their PMI may be cheaper. So this is definitely in the ballpark of what they could qualify for. But this is someone that may have called in and just said, this is how much I make, this is my credit score, what can I afford? And so we're kind of working sort of the traditional way of saying, okay, if they can afford 6,370 and they have $150,000 as their down payment. Right now we're kind of ignoring a closing cost conversation, but we'll go with $150,000 and they have 150, and so they're probably looking at something like $750 as their price range, because $750, 20% down, 20% of that equals $150. But if they want $150 to be all in, including closing costs, that's a different conversation. But if we're saying this is your down payment, so $750 would be the price range you're looking for, and they're putting 20% down, so that's an 80% loan to value. Loan amount, if we do this 6.75 payment, they're going to be, within this range of what the bucket that we have left. Taxes, insurance, we don't have to worry about PMI, right? Because they're putting 20% down. So taxes, 750 times, I'm using 1.25. So that's 782. And then insurance, we'll still use that $200. Plus 200 plus 3892. Okay, so look at that, 4873. They definitely qualify. Now, if they want to push their pre-approval higher, they say, well, we only have 150 to spend, but we would like to be higher than, we have 150 for our down payment, but we want to be higher than 750 on our price. Then that's a conversation of explaining to them that if they're putting less than 20% down, then we do have to factor in PMI, mortgage insurance, and there's different ways to structure this as well. But now we're looking at what's the highest we can go, which would be 6,370. So let's just make kind of some assumptions in terms of taxes and insurance. We'll say taxes and insurance is going to be roughly about $1,000, right? Because even our two scenarios here, we had taxes and insurance was about, $10,033, and here it was less than $1,000. So let's say taxes and insurance is $1,000. What do we got here? This is our bucket that we're working off of. 6,370. We take off $1,000. That leaves 5,370. Our PMI could, be expensive depending on our debt to income ratio. So let's factor that in as well. That's another. What did we have? We had 5,370. Let's take off the 370 as for PMI. We'll allocate that for PMI. Then we'll have $5,000 left. 5,000. That's the payment. Then we've got 6.75 is the interest rate. 30-year mortgage. Our loan, 770. So if they can get a loan for 770, and they add their 150 as their down payment, now they can go all the way up to 920. So it's in terms of pre-qualifying people and having conversations with them, you may have to go forwards, backwards. How much do you make, or how much house do you want to buy, and explain to them what I call the buckets kind of money. So if we say, okay, you make $16,000 a month, this is your bucket. how are we going to allocate the money in this bucket that we can use? Some of it has to go to whatever's on your credit report. Some of it can go to a new mortgage. We also have clients that call in and say, I want to qualify for this price. And we may have to tell them, well, if you're not making $216,000, then, we'll have a challenge. You say, well, I do make 216, but, I write a lot off my tax returns. Okay, then we may have to look at a bank statement program or something else. Or you may have to look at buying something lower than 800,000. So we just have to educate them by just showing the math. And this is me just doing it on a scratch piece of paper, but for most of the time, you'll be doing it in the computer. The reason I'm showing you this scratch piece of paper is sometimes you'll put stuff into the computer and the math is just not mathing. You can't figure out why your debt to income ratio is too high, or you thought they would qualify for, 800,000 when the system is telling you something else. So it may be a good idea to just go to your scratch paper and kind of write out all the numbers, so then you can figure out, oh, I forgot to factor in their car. That's what's making the figures a little wonky. Reach out if you have any questions.